What's your scariest experience? Story 1. At about 10 years old, I fell through ice on a pond. When I came back up, I smacked into ice, instead of the hole I fell through. The water was too murky to see any light from the hole, and I thought that I was witnessing the end of my short life. I was lucky to find the opening again, but as I tried to get back up, the ice kept breaking and I'd go under again. The whole event probably lasted 30 seconds, but to me, it was a lifetime. It's been 35 years, and I'm still nervous on a frozen body of water, even if cars and trucks are driving on it. Story 2. When I was a kid, my grandparents had a house in a small town, almost equals 900 people. I was walking down the street with my grandmother, at 7:08 p.m. so it was already dark, and I saw this gigantic house, just out of a horror movie. I said to my grandma, "Oh, this house looks scary," and she answered that it had been abandoned for 30 plus years. At this precise moment I saw someone moving at the first floor's window. It was probably nothing, or the wind, or a homeless person trying to get something, but I remember that I couldn't sleep for weeks after that. I was a dumb kid, I'm sorry. It's not really scary, but I haven't felt fear that intensely since. Story 3. I was walking home to my shitty ghetto apartment at about 11:30. I was having some family drama at the time and was walking along with my head buried in my phone like an idiot. And suddenly two guys were right on me. One put a gun to my chest and took my things, though he let me rummage through my purse for stuff to give, and the other stood to the side degrading me. After that the mugger told me to walk the other way, so I did. I was so scared they were going to shoot me in the back, but they didn't. I knocked on a random door and they called the police and waited with me for the cops to come. It's been like 7 years since then. It really fucked up my life at a pivotal time, unfortunately, and I'm still dealing with the fallout of the poor decisions I made after that incident. Oh well. Story 4. My son's brain surgery. He has epilepsy and had a small portion removed in 2020 to alleviate his seizures and give him a better quality of life. He spent a week with wires in his brain tracking his seizures as he had them in real time. They slowly stopped his anti-seizure meds to induce them. He had 26 in one night as he slept. Once it was enough data, they removed the portion of his brain near his speech and memory center. This was the location of his misfires. The general consensus was that he had a good chance of losing his speech and memory. His personality could disappear. After his surgery, as he was being taken back to his room, he raised his arm to touch his face. The physician told him not to, and my son said, "I'm not, I just want to touch it." He spoke before he was fully out of anesthesia. 3 days later he was home. 3 days after that he was being transported back for emergency surgery because of a nasty infection under his skull. The surgeon later said he was maybe 12 hours from dying if he hadn't been seen. He had no symptoms other than a gross drip. No pain, no fever, nothing. Another brain surgery and 6 weeks with a drain tube and monitor on him at home with nurse visits weekly. He is now seizure-free and on a much lower dose of meds than he was previously. 1500 daily down to 100 milligrams. I spent a month in the children's center helplessly watching my son slip in and out of consciousness and have hundreds of seizures. The possibility of him waking up with no memories and no way to speak was horrifying to me as his father. So the scariest moment in my life, and keep in mind I've been shot, stabbed, and beaten, was almost losing my 16-year-old child 3 times in 1 month. Story 5. When my daughter was born, my wife had a complication and she started to bleed out really quick. It went from the doctor and 2 nurses in the room to 10 plus people and talks of moving her to an OR. Thankfully a nurse knew what was happening and distracted me with having me help clean and get my baby's measurements. I had to sit on the couch and do skin-on-skin contact while my wife was being saved and getting the bleeding to stop. Those 45 minutes after my daughter was born were so scary because I thought I was going to leave the hospital without my wife. Story 6. I was driving along Mulholland Highway in LA and a car came into my lane around a blind corner going way too fast. I swerved into the opposite lane, which was next to a BS little guardrail barrier and a big drop-off. I inadvertently drifted my car. I saw over the edge. My life literally flashed through my eyes. I then had an automatic response to hit the gas, and somehow that got me going straight again. I not only almost died in a horrible wreck plunging into a gorge with a home at the bottom, but also successfully drifted a car without thinking. I needed to change my underwear after that because a little poo did come out. Story 7. When I was 16, I was in Berlin with my girlfriend. Late at night, probably 2 o'clock, we went to the subway station, Oranienburger Tor. We went through a tunnel or tube towards the metro trains. Nobody was there, except for a man with long dirty hair, beard and mustache, dressed in a long pink dress carrying a red handbag. He stood there with his forehead against the wall, making crying noises. He was very skinny, and from what I could see he had festering wounds on his arms. We walked very carefully and tried to pass him by, almost pressing ourselves to the opposite wall. We figured he wouldn't see us. But he did see us and came running towards us like an animal, howling. We ran past him. He gave up immediately and began crying even harder. It was something out of a horror movie. It was the early 90s, I estimated he was on drugs and probably had AIDS, considering his wounds. Hey everyone! If you're loving the content, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel for more awesome videos. Also, make sure to click the bell icon so you'll never miss an update. Your support means the world to me. Thanks so much, and now, let's dive back into the stories. Story 8. I've only had sleep paralysis once and I thought I was dying. My eyes were closed so I didn't see any sleep paralysis demons, but my hand was on my chest and I thought my heart was trying to squeeze through my ribcage and escape my chest. In the moment I could have sworn my heart was pushing outwards. Thankfully it only lasted about a minute or so before I woke up and walked off the panel. Story 9. Sleep paralysis can be really fucking scary, but sometimes I actually enjoy it. I don't know if I am a bit weird for enjoying it because when it's scary, it's absolutely terrifying. 100% hate it. But there's times it's not scary for me, and I enjoy the shit that's going on around me. The most common frightening episodes I get from sleep paralysis is, my bed will turn into something similar to the fabric from a hot air balloon or a stuntman's inflatable crash pad. It's huge, and I can't get out of it because how soft it is. That's when I get scared, and it feels like I can't get air into my lungs no matter how deep I breathe. Story 10. Experienced that around a year ago, had a shadow standing in the corner slowly floating towards me, then I woke up properly right when it was about to reach me. Then around 2 weeks later I had it for a second time, and this time the same thing was standing right at the side of the bed and leaning over me. Haven't experienced anything since then though. Freaky shit. Story 11. A car collided with another one, that drove up onto the pavement, sidewalk, where I was patiently waiting for the traffic light to change to green for pedestrians. This second car hit me and ran over my legs. I was lucky and I only had to spend 1 month on sick leave. The problem came when I realized that it could have run over my head and I'd be dead by now. Story 12. Luckily it turned out to be nothing, but my dad has been going through a 2-month-long check for potential cancer this summer. And considering that he's single and I'm an only child, I've never felt this lonely and scared in my life. As a kid I remember thinking I hoped I wouldn't lose my parents until I was at least in my 20s because it would be easier then. But the only thing I've been thinking this summer is, 25 is not nearly old enough to cope with this. Honestly, I don't think I will ever feel old enough when the day comes. Just happy knowing I've got him around for a while longer. Story 13. Scariest experience. Let me paint a picture. Final semester of my master's program, working full-time, and my wife and I just had our first child. My wife got put on antidepressants and had a severe allergic reaction called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. This is hands down the most horrible thing I have ever seen happen to a person. Worse than cancer. Her skin on her entire body blistered and melted off. Her lips melted off, her eyelids and vagina almost melted together and shut, her lungs melted, her nails melted off. Just imagine taking the most volatile acid you can think of and just dipping someone inside it completely for 2 minutes. She was in ICU burn ward and there were 3 other people with SJS, all died within days. The pain was immeasurable. She was unrecognizable. All she could do is moan in pain. She couldn't talk or move. For 3 weeks, I didn't know if she would live. I was taking care of our daughter, school, work, and sleeping at the hospital with her. I've never seen someone in so much pain. Thank God, we were at an amazing facility and we are in phenomenal shape, otherwise, she would be dead. I remember one particular moment where I was driving home, my daughter saw her mom for the first time and got scared and started crying. I thought for sure I was going to lose the love of my life. She had a particularly bad day and was coughing up pieces of her lung. And I'm talking real chunks. Almost choked on it. Nurse had to pull it out. Thank good she's better now. But please everyone, understand the dangers of these medications. If you really want to get stressed, go research SJS and look up photos. It is horrific. Story 14. Personally for me it was when I was a teenager, me and 3 of my drunk guy friends were going back home through the park at night. The bar was next to a park, and the easiest way to get home was through that park. My friends were total dicks and just a nuisance, so when we started our walk across the park, and it was horribly dark mind you, it happened that some Russian guy was walking behind us talking over the phone. My stupid friends overheard him talking, and started annoying him, like, "Are you following us to rape our friend," or something stupid like that just to laugh and get a rise out of the guy. The dude was probably in his 30s, 6 foot, and he seemed strong. By the time my friend started to approach him, he stopped talking over the phone, and looked around as if looking if there would be any witnesses. Then he proceeded to close his leather jacket, and took out leather gloves that he then put on. By that point I realized that it was me, 3 stupid drunk dudes and 1 scary Russian man in basically a dark forest. So I screamed that we should go back to the bar because I forgot something, plus we need a taxi. My friends after seeing my reaction sobered up, and played it off that I am right and we should leave this park sooner. I remember that this man didn't even blink once and from the beginning till the end of this interaction was staring at them coldly, and I think the fact that he didn't even look at me once feels scarier if he did, because of how inhuman it felt.
Thank you all for watching and don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe.